I'm Jason with Tenkara USA, and in this video I'm going to show you how to tie a horsehair Sakasa Kebari. It's one of my favorite flies. It's been very effective for me. But there's one little caveat I want to show you that can make or literally break this fly. When you buy horsehair, it usually comes in a hank like this, and you'll notice that there are strands of lighter and darker colors. For this fly, what I like to do is choose one darker strand and one lighter strand and then wrap them together because that gives the illusion of segmentation. Now, the first mistake a lot of people make whenever they try to tie a horsetail body is they just pick any two random strands. And that's not going to work because there's a lot of variance in the strength between different strands. So what you want to do is choose one light, one dark, and just kind of run your hand down them and pull them and see if you can break it. And if you can't break it relatively easily, it's probably strong enough to wrap. If you don't do this first, I guarantee that when you tie it into the fly and you try to wrap it, it's going to break. So it's nice to pick out two good fibers before you start tying the fly. I'm using a Tiemco 2499 SPBL hook just because I like that bend, and it's a little bit heavier of a hook shank, so helps the fly sink a little bit, but you could use any wet fly hook you want. And I'm using a Uni 8/0 camel colored thread, and I like that color just because it blends in with the horse tail color, the darker color, which you'll see when I tie the fly off, but I just think it makes a neater looking fly. So I'm just going to build a small head of thread here, break that off, and then tie in my hackle. And I'm using grizzly hackle just because I like the variegation of it. I think it makes a buggier looking fly, but you could use any kind of hackle you want. Tie that down, break that off, put that in my hackle pliers, and then I'm just going to make a few turns. I usually do 3 or so. You could do more or less depending on if you want a sparser fly or a more densely hackled fly. Tie that down. Break it off. And then I'm going to sweep the hackle forward a little bit and make just a couple of wraps to make it a true Sakasa Kebari or reverse hackled fly. Now take the 2 horsehair strands that you pre-selected and make sure they're end to end and tie them in right behind the hackle. And I like to kind of let them go on the opposite side of the hook shank that's facing me and a little bit kind of underneath. Wrap back toward the bend where you want the body to begin and then wrap back forward. And I also like to make a slight taper, an underbody of thread, just to kind of give it a tapered look. So just wrap over that a couple of times. And then stop the thread right behind the hackle. Now you can go ahead and wrap the 2 strands of horsehair together. And they should stay together, but if they don't, you can kind of twist and pinch with your fingers a little bit so that they stay together. Notice I'm trying to keep both strands pretty tightly together so they look like one body. And then I'm going to stop right there behind the hackle and just make a couple of wraps to secure it. And I'm going to cut off the horsehair, make a couple of other wraps to secure it. Now you can see what I'm saying about that camel colored thread blending in pretty nicely with the darker color of the horsehair. And the last step, you will just take a whip finisher, or you can do a hand half hitch if you want, but I prefer the whip finisher, and just make a nice whip finish right behind the hackle. tighten that up. Cut it off and you're done.